Smoke rises high above Site-19 as the best and brightest of the SCP Foundation try in vain to contain the chaos unfolding in their flagship containment facility. Guards and mobile task force operatives bust out the heavy artillery to face off against the rampaging doombots, humanoid machines fitted with advanced armor, laser weaponry, and even rocket propulsion. Some of the deadliest anomalies, from SCP-682 to SCP-106, have escaped and are prowling through the halls looking for prey. Members of the shadowy O5 Council, positioned across the globe with one orbiting the Earth in their own private space station, begin to panic. They need to hunker down. All evidence points to the frightening fact that if Site-19 falls, their locations will be compromised, and whoever is doing this will be after them next. It will mean the complete destruction of the SCP Foundation as we know it. If the Site-19 domino falls, it could be over there and then. A salvo of rockets descend upon the exterior of the site, lighting up the outer defense systems. Ground-launched mission defense systems are somehow bypassed, shut down by the technical know-how of some beyond-genius hacker. Fences and perimeter walls are destroyed. Guards' towers collapse as sniper fire from the desert take out the guards. In the vast desert surrounding Site-19, a mirage shimmers. But this is more than a mirage. The air wobbles and out from the distortion steps an army, armed with explosives, melee weapons, and advanced lasers. Their chests bear the logo of the nation of Latveria. Each one advanced with a fervor of furious zealotry. They're willing to kill and die for their master, and if everything goes to plan, they will be planting the same flag they now fly over this building by nightfall. As their robotic brethren and the same anomalies that the Foundation vowed to contain destroyed the organization from within. Who could possibly be behind such a daring attack? Who could operate both beneath and above Foundation suspicion, crafting a meticulous plan to strike at their weakest and potentially even take an advantage over the most powerful organization in human history? It could only be Victor Von Doom, or Dr. Doom if you're feeling formal. Genius inventor, combatant, and sorcerer, dictator of the Eastern European nation of Latveria, and one of the most powerful and terrifying supervillains of all time. If they wanted to have any hope of repelling this attack, the SCP Foundation had their work cut out for them for once. But before the chaos before the assault on Site-19 that could potentially turn the tide of Dr. Doom's war against the Foundation, before he even created or set his plan into motion, how did Dr. Doom and the Foundation find themselves at each other's throats? It began, as many of Dr. Doom's diabolical plans do, with one of his jaunts through time. Thanks to a fusion of arcane sorcery and impossibly sophisticated technology, Doom had long since cracked the secrets to temporal manipulation and even interdimensional travel. He could theoretically go anywhere and any when that he pleased, so he liked to satisfy his megalomania by keeping an eye on the future. And on one trip into the future, Dr. Doom did not like what he saw. In the future he arrived into, the world was a scorched and nightmarish hellscape. Human beings were no longer the dominant force on the planet. Many billions had been wiped out, and what remains labored in agony under the rule of a demonic crimson tyrant, the Scarlet King. The only remaining culture was that of the Davites, monstrous people advanced as they were barbaric. Acts of murder, human sacrifice, and cannibalism take place in the center of their blood-stained cityscapes, and outside of these cities, where the Scarlet King is worshipped as a god, terrible monsters hunt human prey. Doom is aghast behind the cold, neutral expression of his mask. Who could have allowed this to happen? Dr. Doom quickly left this ruined hellscape of a timeline and set about his new project, finding out what exactly led to such a horrible fate befalling the world, and what he'd need to do in order to stop it. You might find it confusing. Why would Dr. Doom, a practitioner of black magic, a tyrant and a proud supervillain himself, hold any stock in saving the world from the future that he'd seen? Simple. For Doom to rule the world, there needed to still be a world to rule. He didn't want the wanton destruction and death you'd find under the bloody fist of a chaos god. The structured order and control of a totalitarian was far more his style. While locked away in his fortress in the capital of Latveria, Dr. Doom and his network of agents across the globe began to discover some fascinating things. There was an organization, operating in absolute secrecy, working under the stated goal of securing, containing, and protecting anomalous entities, objects, locations, and general phenomena. They served under the mysterious auspices of the O5 Council, a group of 13 individuals scattered across the globe. With the ultimate cache of anomalies in their clutches, it could be argued that they were the most powerful people on Earth, a fact that Dr. Doom found fascinating. They styled themselves as Earth's protectors, but their arrogance would lead to its destruction. Poor decisions, weakness. Clearly, even with all that power, they couldn't be trusted. The human race would be better off with the power of the SCP Foundation in the titanium clutches of Victor Von Doom. And so began his grand plan to shift the balance of power in the anomalous world. But even though Dr. Doom was supremely confident in his resources and abilities, he wasn't a fool. He knew that this foundation was packing incredible power, from their vast stocks of anomalies to technology far more advanced than most of the human race had access to. In fact, it was a game of cat and mouse now. If Doom overplayed his hand, then the Foundation could easily open a file on him and begin mounting countermaneuvers against his forces. He didn't fancy spending the rest of his life separated from his armor, locked in a cell surrounded by Scranton reality anchors and thaumaturgic seals. His empire destroyed, his assets liquidated, his most loyal lieutenants either killed, contained, or mind-wiped with amnestic treatment. As much as he was aware of his own strength, that was a possibility he could not risk. The first step of his plan was simple. He needed people on the inside. From Doom's research, he found that the Foundation had an incredibly strenuous vetting process for all new applicants. It could take him years to create the perfect candidate, give them a foolproof background that would pass the Foundation's smell test, but without the liberty of time, seeing as an apocalypse was on the way, he needed to try an alternative. The trap was laid in Serbia, where Doom's Latvian agents were deeply embedded in stay-behind operations after the Yugoslav wars. Using some of Doom's thaumaturgic technology, they created the most classical of supernatural creatures: zombies, shambling flesh-eaters terrorizing remote Serbian villagers. A few innocents died, of course, but Doom had never really been averse to collateral damage in his schemes. It wasn't long before a Foundation field agent was dispatched to look into the case, setting the next stage of Doom's plan into motion. The agent was zip-tied and black-bagged, then teleported back to Doom's inner sanctum in Latveria. They only had a few-hour window to get this right before the Foundation started to suspect. Doom once again reapplied his scientific and occult genius. He had his mother's genes to thank for that, to create a perfect clone of the agent he'd kidnapped, complete with all of the latter's memories, and one key difference: a hidden but absolute loyalty to the will of Doom. With the agent remaining unconscious in one of Doom's many dungeons, the flawless switcheroo was made. The clone was placed back in Serbia to report back to the Foundation, and a wider team of mobile task force agents were deployed to easily mop up the zombie menace. Little did they know, when they returned to Site-19, they were bringing back an agent of Doom with them, and it would not be the only one. Over the month that followed, Doom would perform this same scheme with several low-level Foundation field agents, the kind that flew under the radar amongst the many larger fish that the Foundation had to fry. At night, they would send in detailed reports, feeding their metal-suited master intel about the organization. Little by little, he and his strategists were able to build up a detailed picture of the Foundation, and especially Site-19 from the inside. But if Doom wanted to truly rule over this group, he needed to behead the snake and install his own power structure in their place. He needed to subjugate or destroy the ones who held all the power of the SCP Foundation, the O5 Council. Doom's network of embedded agents closely studied the power structure of the Foundation and did all they could to penetrate the many layers of classification that the Foundation's most powerful members hid behind. Eventually, all of their locations would be triangulated, and with the taking of Site-19, Doom would provide the ultimate illustration of why it's futile to resist his power. They would fall in line, or they would die. Soon enough, The day came. The first domino would fall, then all the others. Dr. Doom alerted his Foundation sleeper agents that when the signal came, it would be time to lower the gates and cause chaos. Then, the signal came. One clone embedded in the central security terminal pulled out a laser weapon and disintegrated the guards around him before they even knew that they were dead. An auspicious start. He approached the main console and began turning off different security protocols. Of course, the failsafes would kick in and keep some of the most dangerous monsters under lock and key, but they'd planned for that as well. Other sleeper agents across the site are awakening. They draw their weapons and start firing on their supposed co-workers. Response time will be slower than expected, given the first layer of security has already been kneecapped by the clones in the control room. But now it's time to really get this party started. Embedded agents in the containment wing move in towards some of the most dangerous anomalies in the site, the kind whose containment procedures are protected by failsafes upon failsafes. The agents unveil their smuggled tools, adamantium chainsaws, a handy little invention that Dr. Doom created when he needed to perform brain surgery on the Incredible Hulk. But they were equally effective at carving through the reinforced metal of containment chamber doors. Soon, a legion of deadly anomalous monsters, chief among them SCP-682, would be wandering the halls of the SCP Foundation, maiming and killing everyone they encountered. From the outside, mobile task forces were dispatched with the intention of getting this chaos under control. That's when Dr. Doom activated the next phase of the plan, the outside assault. Doombots, the deadly cloaked robotic emissaries of Dr. Doom, each one mapped on his own diabolical consciousness, made their move. They sprung up from under the sand, flew in from the sky, marched in from the mountains, releasing an onslaught of lasers and missiles onto the Foundation fortress. The guards, most of which were armed with pistols, submachine guns, and assault rifles, are easily outmatched. Their bullets can't even penetrate the thick armor of the Doombots, leaving them disadvantaged in the opening salvo. Many fall dead as lasers cleave through them. Then descends the Latverian shock troops, devoted acolytes of Doom, teleporting into the desert to lead a grand assault on Site-19. With them and the Doombots, and the clones working to undermine the Foundation's efforts inside, it looks like the forces of Doom might have this one in the bag. Until the arrival of MTF Nu 7, Hammerdown. Tanks and armored all-terrain vehicles roll in. Attack helicopters descend. F-35s scramble far above. Hammerdown is a battalion strength force equipped with some of the Foundation's most dangerous and advanced weaponry. With this piece on the chessboard, the battle was far from assured. High-powered rifles and EMP weapons turned the tables on the Doombots. While they previously seemed unbeatable, now they were dropping like flies. The Latverian militants, despite their weaponry, also found themselves coming up short against the superior training and tactics of the Hammerdown agents, whose skills had been honed in real combat scenarios against terrifying anomalous opponents. They routed the Latverians, cutting off their supply lines and splitting their forces. They went from an organized fighting force to a panicked rabble of supervillain worshippers. Back in his Latverian palace, Dr. Doom was watching. His heartbeat didn't even raise as he watched his troops and Doombots falling left and right. He didn't want to get his gauntlets dirty if he didn't have to, but if the situation called for it, he was happy to be the titanium finger on the scale. Dr. Doom teleported into the heart of Site-19. Guards and members of Hammerdown unleashed hell upon him, but the bullets merely ricocheted off his almost indestructible armor. The Doombots were, when push came to shove, just a pale imitation of their ultimate leader.
"You think you have this situation under control," he growled. "Your pitiful Foundation, pretenders to the throne. You think you can order the world from the shadows. You think it can be saved without being changed. I alone have the power to save the world, to bring peace and order. I am not the treatment. I am the cure. I am Doom."
The guards went in to try to subdue Doom physically, but his directed energy blasts sent them careening into the nearby walls. He stomped through the halls, beating or blasting anyone who dared get in his way. Of course, it wasn't long before they decided not to engage at all. It did about as much good as trying to hold back an advancing tide. Doom, remembering the schematics of the base by heart, walks effortlessly, hacking or smashing through any barrier in his way, until he reaches the office of the site director. With a swift kick, he knocked down the door and entered the room, grabbing the site director by the throat.
I have come to bargain,
Doom said. A week later, a new meeting of the O5 Council had assembled in the aftermath of the attack, deciding the best way to reconsolidate their resources, restructure their departments, and better prepare for the future. As the meeting was called to order, O5-1 addressed his fellow council members.
We realize that things have been difficult lately, but in the middle of adversary lies opportunity. In the aftermath of this setback, I am confident that the SCP Foundation will rise from the ashes and become a more powerful and effective organization than it has ever been before, he said to measured applause. Which reminds me, before we proceed with our agenda for the day, I would like to introduce our new council member. Welcome to the Foundation, O5-14. At the head of the table, O5-14, perhaps better known as Victor Von Doom, nodded approvingly.
Thank you. I am pleased to be here, he said. Now, let us discuss my new plan regarding management.
Now check out SCP-049 versus SCP-173, or Markiplier versus Deadly SCPs.